Hello, it's great to meet you again in the story of the single mother Huai Ka. Today we will continue her emotional journey after facing many challenges. After getting lost in the deep forest, Huai Ka finally found her way back and reunited with Tony and Hung. When she saw Tony, she couldn't hold back her emotions and embraced her son in a burst of happiness. It was the moment she had been waiting for throughout their long separation. But the question remains, how did Huai Ka manage to find her way back to her family after all the hardships? We will explore the story of Huai Ka's resilience and determination, the strong mother who overcame all dangers to return to her loved ones. Will she find happiness again in the arms of her family? And what is the truth about what happened during her journey? If you hope for Huai Ka to reunite with her family and find happiness after all the struggles, don't forget to like and subscribe to follow this emotional story. Thank you for joining us. Early in the morning, Huai Ka woke up in the cold forest, surrounded by the sound of birds chirping and the crisp air of dawn. Last night, she could only lay a few banana leaves on the ground to make a bed. Although her body was exhausted and her limbs were sore from a night of uncomfortable sleep, her heart was filled with determination. Huai Ka sat up, her eyes gazing into the distance, where the first rays of the sun began to pierce through the forest canopy, lighting up the silent land. She told herself that today would be the day she found a way out the path that would lead her back to her family, to Tony. Thinking back to the difficult and tiring days in the forest, the moments when she felt lonely and desperate, Huai Ka refused to give in to fate. She had gone through too much to give up now. The feeling of being lost in the wild with no one around, no help, only herself and her inner strength to face the challenges, was overwhelming. But she knew she had to keep going, even if the road ahead might be full of obstacles. She took a deep breath, trying to regain strength for the long day ahead. The exhaustion still weighed heavily on her body, but her unyielding willpower wouldn't allow her to stop. She stood up, pushing aside the branches that surrounded her, and continued on with the faint hope that one day she would be able to hold Tony in her arms again, the son she missed so much. Although she wasn't sure if she would be able to find her way out of this forest, Huai Ka still believed that each step, no matter how difficult, would bring her closer to her family. She wouldn't allow herself to give up or turn back. And even though the darkness of the forest still loomed over her, she was ready to face everything with one single hope: to return to Tony, to her family. At this moment, Hung and the rest of the search team were at the edge of the forest, where all their hopes were focused on a single task: finding Huai Ka. Earlier, the group had traveled together, but due to the vastness of the forest and the need to search every nook and cranny, they decided to split up and head in different directions to increase their chances of finding her. Each member of the group was determined, their hearts full of worry and hope. They all knew that even the smallest sign could lead to a clue about Huai Ka's whereabouts. Therefore, they couldn't afford to waste any time. As they walked, they carefully observed every leaf, every branch, every faint trace on the ground, hoping to find any sign of her. The footsteps of each person seemed heavier as they ventured deeper into the forest. They tried to keep themselves from losing hope, even though everything around them could make them feel exhausted and discouraged. Each person silently reminded themselves that Huai Ka might still be out there waiting for their help. One by one, they moved cautiously, not daring to stray too far, fearing that if they lost sight of each other, the search might come to a halt. They didn't want to miss any opportunity. They all shared the same belief that as long as they persevered and never gave up, they would find Hawaii Ka. They believed in some kind of miracle that might occur, that Hawaii Ka would reappear returning to her family. In the heart of each person, alongside the worry, there was a spark of hope. They couldn't bring themselves to think of anything bad, only wishing to hear Hawaii Ka's voice, calling out to see her return strong as before. The group continued moving forward, searching tirelessly, never stopping with only one thought in mind: to find Hawaii Ka and bring her back to her family. After a long period of walking through the forest, everyone's legs were exhausted. However, they didn't stop and kept searching for Hawaii Ka, hoping they would soon find her. When they reached a crossroads, 4 members of the group decided to sit down for a short break, discussing how to continue the search and trying to plan to avoid wasting any time. During the rest, the group could feel the tension and fatigue. They couldn't stop thinking about Hawaii Ka, and the feeling of worry and unease began to take over each of them. Unable to wait any longer, they decided to stand up and continue their journey. They wouldn't allow themselves to give up no matter the difficulties and challenges ahead. After walking a short distance from the resting spot near where they had stopped, Hung suddenly discovered a palm tree with its leaves chopped off and the core taken. This was a clear sign they couldn't ignore. It was a trace left by Hawaii Ka. He quickly informed the group, and they all gathered together to examine the situation. The group realized that Hawaii Ka hadn't gone too far, and it seemed they were heading in the direction she had traveled before. These small traces, though faint, showed they were on the right path. The group continued to follow the trail and split up again, each person heading in a different direction. Ha, while walking, was the first to discover where Hawaii Ka had spent the night. It was nothing more than a simple bed made of banana leaves. Nothing special, but it was these small details that made everyone's hearts swell with hope. They had found an important clue. These traces not only confirmed that Hawaii Ka hadn't gone too far, but also suggested she was trying to find her way back. Everyone couldn't stop thinking about her situation. Was she safe? Was she injured? After finding Hawaii Ka's traces, the group sat down to discuss and plan their next steps. They decided to split up once again, following the paths that had been chosen. And if anyone found more clues, they would immediately inform the others to avoid wasting time. Their steps continued firmly despite the exhaustion, but in each of their hearts was the belief that Hawaii Ka was still out there waiting for their help. Hawaii Ka, on her part, refused to let herself fall. Despite her exhaustion and aching legs, she remained resolute in continuing her journey. Each step she took was a struggle between fear and hope. She knew that if she stopped for too long, she wouldn't be able to keep going, so she only dared to rest briefly, trying to gather her strength before moving forward again. While resting, an idea suddenly struck Hawaii Ka. She decided to follow the stream she had bathed in the day before, hoping that if she followed the water, she could find her way down to the village and meet someone who could help. She knew that the stream might lead her to a place where people lived, and that was the only hope she had at the moment. Not wanting to let her anxiety linger, Hawaii Ka quickly stood up and retraced her steps to the stream she had found the previous day. The cool water still flowed over the rocks, as if trying to comfort her in this moment. Despite her extreme fatigue, she couldn't hesitate any longer. She knew that if she didn't act now, she wouldn't have another chance. With each passing second, the weight of her worry and exhaustion pressed even harder on her, but she couldn't let herself fail. Huaika walked along the stream, hoping to find the path that would lead her out of the forest. She didn't dare to think about what would happen if she couldn't find anyone to help her. This was her only chance to save herself, and she was determined not to let it slip away. Every step she took, though heavy, was full of hope. She could only move forward without stopping, because she knew that it was the only way to keep faith in the future. The rain began to fall in light showers, the steady drops creating a gloomy atmosphere in the forest. Mrs. Bay stood beside the group anxiously, asking each member about the progress of the search. Everyone answered that they had found no trace of Huaika. Despite their best efforts, the clues they had found were not enough to bring them closer to her. A sense of exhaustion and disappointment engulfed them all, as if the efforts throughout the day had yielded no results. The group gathered together once again, their weary eyes and aching legs, showing the toll of the long day spent searching the forest. Yet within them, a faint glimmer of hope remained, even though the clues they had gathered were insufficient to pinpoint Huaika's location. They realized that if they continued in the same way, the chances of finding her were slim. In the end, they decided they could no longer delay. The group made the difficult decision to return and inform the local authorities, hoping to receive support from the rescue teams to continue the search. Huaika may be in trouble, but they believed that with the help of the authorities, their chances of finding her would improve. They didn't want to give up, but they knew that if they kept going alone with so few people, they would never be able to find her in such a vast forest. Hung's group, though determined, had reached their limit. After an entire day with no results, they felt helpless. They couldn't continue without more assistance. Their team was too small to search every corner of the vast forest. They had no choice but to accept the reality and return, preparing to report to the authorities so they could organize a more systematic search. As for Huaika, could she find her way back on her own? Given the current situation, no one could predict. She had endured so much, but did she have enough strength to find a way out without external help? Everyone in the group worried about her condition, but there was nothing they could do except continue their efforts. What chance did they have to reunite? Would Huaika be able to find the path on her own, or would help arrive in time? These questions remained unanswered, and the answer would have to wait. We will watch as the next chapter unfolds, where hope has not yet been extinguished, and a final ray of light may guide them back to each other.
Dù vậy, Huaika không thể cứ nằm yên mãi trên giường, cảm giác dần cần phải làm gì đó để cảm thấy có ích đã thôi thúc cô đứng dậy. Huaika bắt đầu dọn dẹp nhà cửa, lau chùi từng góc nhà giúp bà Bảy. Cô biết mình không thể cứ phụ thuộc vào người khác mãi, dù bà Bảy đã rất tận tâm giúp đỡ cô. Sau khi dọn dẹp xong, cô cảm thấy một phần nào đó của mình đã trở lại với cuộc sống bình thường. Bà Bảy vẫn lo lắng cho tình hình của cô, nên khi thấy Huaika đứng dậy làm việc, bà bảo cô nghỉ ngơi, đừng làm quá sức. Hai người ngồi lại cùng nhau trò chuyện vui vẻ. Mặc dù có những lúc Huaika chỉ im lặng, nhưng bà Bảy luôn cố gắng tận lực. Không khí thoải mái khiến Huaika cảm thấy dễ chịu hơn. Những lời nói của bà ấm áp và chân thành giúp Huaika dần dần cảm nhận được rằng mình không còn cô đơn nữa. Một lúc sau, Hà về nhà. Sau một ngày làm việc vất vả, cả ba ngồi lại quây quần bên nhau. Dù Huaika chỉ mới là người xa lạ, nhưng trong không khí ấm cúng ấy, cô cảm nhận được sự chân thành và tình cảm từ hai người. Hà không nói nhiều về quá khứ của cô, mà chỉ lắng nghe, quan tâm và chia sẻ những câu chuyện đời thường. Cảm giác ấy, tình cảm ấy khiến Hoài Ca thấy ấm lòng, như thể cô đã tìm thấy một nơi an yên trong cuộc sống của mình. Dù chưa hoàn toàn hồi phục, nhưng Hoài Ca bắt đầu cảm thấy mình có thể tin tưởng vào những người xung quanh, và có lẽ đây chính là bước khởi đầu cho một chương mới trong cuộc đời cô, nơi tình người và sự chia sẻ sẽ giúp cô vượt qua mọi khó khăn.